Now that you know how to find the y-intercept and you know how to find slope, it's time that we put it all together in a linear equation. We're going to be writing these out as y equals mx plus b. Who remembers what m in this linear equation represents? M is your slope. So b would represent what? Right, our y-intercept. Okay, so let's jump right into this. First thing we're going to do, looking at this table, we need to find the slope of this table. We are going to pick out 2 points to plug into our slope formula. What's the slope formula again? Okay, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. My y1 is 450. My y2 is 195. x1 is 25. x2 is 10. What do we need to press in order to plug this into our calculator? Correct, alpha y equals, and we're going to select option number 1. On the top, we'll type in 450 minus 195. Scroll down to the denominator and enter that 25 minus 10. And when we hit enter, we find that our slope is 17. What letter do we use to represent slope? The m. So our m, or our slope, is 17. To find our y-intercept, we can plug this table into stat edit. So we'll start by hitting stat, which is here. And we'll hit edit. And if there's anything in your columns, use the delete button to clear them out, not the clear button. When you hit clear, you run the risk of deleting the column itself, which will make this step not possible. So in L1, we're going to enter our x values. 10, enter, 25, enter. Then we'll scroll over to L2, where we will enter all of our y values. Now we're going to hit stat again. We're going to scroll over to the Calc tab and select option number 4. Scroll down to Calculate, and when your cursor's blinking on Calculate, you'll hit Enter. B is your y-intercept, because we use the number or the letter B to represent our y-intercept. And they tell us that it is 25. Okay, so now how do we put all this together? You're going to take your value for m, this 17, and you're going to plug it into that first parenthesis, which is holding the place of m. And then we take our 25 and we plug it into this parenthesis, which is holding the place of b. and you have y equals 17x plus 25. It's just a matter of finding your slope, finding your y-intercept, and plugging them into the correct location. Okay, so let's look at this table here. Again, we're just going to pick 2 points and plug them into y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. We'll open alpha y equals to plug this into the first option. We find that our slope is 72. What letter do we use again to represent our slope? M, very nice. Okay, how are we going to find our y-intercept? Go ahead and walk me through the steps. Stat, edit, delete everything. What goes in L1? Okay. What goes in L2? Okay. Now what do I hit? Stat, over to calc, option 4, down to calculate, and enter. What letter represents slope? B. And our slope is 0. So now we'll take these values, plug our slope value in the parenthesis holding the space for M, plug our y-intercept value in for the place that's being held for B, and we have y equals 72x plus 0. So one important thing to note is when your y-intercept is 0, you don't actually have to write it. The reason we don't write it is because it doesn't change the equation at all. When you take your 72 and you multiply it by whatever your x variable is, adding or subtracting 0 isn't going to change your answer at all, so it's just extra information that isn't necessary in your linear equation. Okay, so let's look at this graph. So we need to be able to write the equation from a graph as well. The good news is it's even easier than doing it from a table. Again, we're still going to pick out 2 points. And we need to find 2 good solid points where it crosses cleanly with an x value and a y value. So I have an intersection right here, which is 15, 16, over 15 up 16. Okay, and then it looks like I have another one right here, which is 35, 24. Again, we'll plug these points into y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Open alpha y equals. We have 2/5. What letter do we use to represent slope? M. So our slope is 2/5. Now, we don't need to plug any points in to find our y-intercept. We just need to figure out where this line crosses the y-axis. So it looks to be there's a blank line and 8, a blank line and a 16. From 8 to 16 is a differentiation of 8, which means this is counting by 4. So this line here would be 12. So it looks as though we're halfway between 8 and 12. What's halfway between 8 and 12? 10. So our y-intercept in this case is 10. We're going to take these, plug our slope in here to the parentheses holding the place for m. Take the 10 and plug it in where the place is being held for b. And our linear equation is y equals 2/5 x plus 10. Okay? Let's do one more together here. We'll pick some nice clean points. We have 5, 6. And 10, 12. y1 minus y2. You can do it by hand. I'm just going to continue modeling how to plug it into the calculator. Okay, so for m, we have 6/5. What letter do we use for y-intercept? B. Where does this line cross the y-axis? At 0. So we're going to take our 6/5 and plug it here. And we would plug this in here for our y-intercept, but our y-intercept is 0, so again, we don't actually need to include it in our problem. So it's just more of what you have been doing. Find your y-intercept, find your slope. Now we're just plugging these values in for m and b to create our linear equation y equals mx plus b. Go ahead and practice these problems here at the bottom of the page.